Once upon a time, there was a night when two friends are talking while looking at a building. The blonde-haired boy mentions that the richest woman in the circle, Shu, lives at the top of the building. The brown-haired boy finds himself looking at a girl on his phone. But when his friend stops to see what his friend was looking at, the brown-haired boy hides the phone. Then the blonde-haired boy reminds him that a girl was waiting for him, but not seeing him ready to propose. He suggests that he change the date, but the brown-haired boy says he has nothing to lose. Faced with his attitude, the blonde-haired friend pats him on the back, encouraging him. So in the end, the protagonist agrees to go to the girl's room. But being in front of the door, the protagonist suffers from a lot of fear, having mixed feelings, because he knows that once he enters the room, he will have no turning back. So he hesitantly tries to knock on the door, until he plucks up the courage and knocks. Then the beautiful girl who is staying there allows him to enter. Then the protagonist, with much embarrassment, agrees to enter. But while doing so, he cannot help seeing the voluptuous personality of the girl. He is so impressed that collapses. Then the girl asks him very coldly if he is afraid, but gives him her hand to help him up. After that, the protagonist cannot believe that such a beautiful girl is involved in an industry he does not mention, and that he is now related to her. While the protagonist was looking at the girl's lower personality, the wind comes in through the window, lifting the girl's dress a little, making the protagonist look away. Then the girl tells him that a boyfriend should be ready to help in those situations. And while they were walking, we find out that the protagonist is in a test to work as if he was the girl's boyfriend. But everything points to the boy having a real partner. But he needs work because he needs money, so the girl routes him to the bedroom. Then the protagonist says that if it were up to him, he wouldn't be there. Then the girl, seeing the prota's determination, asks him to sit down to start the test. Then they both sit down and the girl claps her hands, giving a signal for a girl with white hair and eyes to enter. But the girl seems to suffer from being blind. Then the prota is amazed in seeing her walking staggering, and with difficulty, the protagonist stands up and could understand that the girl was blind, getting up and making the rich girl smile. Then the protagonist goes to help her and telling the blind girl that he will help her. The girl reacts and asks if he is her beloved, making him to react, and he is confused. The girl with a smile reaches out her hand and touches the prota's chest, causing him to blush. The girl then brings her hands to the prota's face, directing her eyes to the prota's face, although she can't. Insert Brooks laugh from One Piece XD. Then the prota gets nervous and doesn't understand what the girl wants to do to him. Then the girl tells the prota that she's been waiting for him for a long time, so the blushing prota assumes that must be part of the test. Then the girl approaches the protagonist and they both get pulled into a passionate kiss. After exchanging their oral fluids, the protagonist turns to see the lilac-haired girl, noticing that she was serving the tea. Then the prota feels his heart beating, like a donkey if you decayed. Then the prota feels quite excited about the ordeal. And the white-haired girl tells the prota that it's about time to meet her mother. Then the prota takes her hand and agrees to accompany her. Then the girl sits next to the lilac-haired girl and calls her mom and introduces her to her boyfriend. Then he acknowledges that this was the test by bowing to the lilac-haired girl. Then he embarrassingly introduces himself as the girl's boyfriend. So they both laugh and the blind girl tells him that he is nervous because he came to see her for the first time. Then the blind girl tells the protagonist not to be afraid of his mother because she is very talkative and never eats people. Then the prota is confused. After this, the lilac-haired girl asks the prota what he thought of the test, to which the protagonist says that he almost didn't understand it. Then the girl with purple hair tells him that he gave very quick answers, so the prota asks if the test was finished, but the girl with a smile mentions that it is a part of the test. Then the lilac-haired girl, adopting an elegant and sensual sitting, asks the protagonist if she knows what women are like at that time. The prota raises his head and disagrees with the head. She then tells him a little about the basics of her business and tells him that people who are at the highest point do not just earn money, but can have anything they want. On the other hand, a low-level boyfriend is someone who is only there to accompany and earn little money, and when the man's most fiery age passes, he will fall into emotional ruin. After hearing the girl's sermon, the prota asks if he approved. Then the lilac-haired girl gets up and sits next to the prota and, taking him by the arm, tells her daughter that this is the groom she will marry, asking the blind girl, her daughter, to approve them. But she reacts with confusion, and the lilac-haired girl, after giving the protagonist a kiss on the cheek, tells him to greet her daughter. The prota swallows dryly and tells the blind girl with a lot of nerves to get along well. But the white-haired girl exclaims that she only has one father, and the prota is not and does not accept him as such. Then the lilac-haired girl mentions to her daughter very coldly that she too has the right to get on with her life, and she is also tired. Then the blind girl throws a tantrum and refuses to hear what her mother has to say. Then the girl gets up and tries to run away, but she trips over the table and the prota, seeing that she was falling, throws himself on her and prevents her from hitting the table. Then the blind girl feels with her hand the prota's face and tells him that he is just pretending to be good. Then the prota asks her to get up first, but as she tries to get up, the girl slips on the tea that had spilled. Then the girl's breasts fall again on the prota's face. At what happened, the blind girl apologizes and the blushing prota sighs. Followed by this, the protagonist and the blind girl apologize to the lilac-haired woman for breaking the tea set, but the lilac-haired woman thanks her as a mother who will save her daughter. So the woman brings a first aid kit and tells the prota that he will have to take care of his face, healing the wound the prota has on his nose, proceeding to describe the composition of the product and the source. The woman then asks him if he understands what she wants to tell him. The prota then looks at the woman. This was Zhu, the woman he had spoken of at the beginning. Zhu then closes the medicine cabinet and turns to look at the protagonist as well, proceeding to take her face with her hands, making the prota blush. Then she brings her mouth close to the prota's face and starts to sigh in the prota's face. Then the prota feels that she is doing what she likes to eat the most. The prota enjoyed Zhu's breath so much that he gets sexually excited. After that, Zhu starts to explain to him how the part-time boyfriend industry originated. Then it seems that the prota got everything clear to the prota. So Zhu sweetly looks at the protagonist and takes him by the arm while commenting that women have a strong need for love and companionship, resting his head on the prota's shoulder. So the prota very heatedly asks her what all that has to do with the test. So Zhu commented that thanks to her skill she managed to find the best matches or part-time boyfriends that the industry has, and after finding them she found him the person who would empower or with whom they would have the best attunement in the relationship. After telling her this, Zhu smiles and tells the prota that it is strange that business worked out so well, and goes on to say that even though you are a part-time boyfriend you can learn a lot about being on top. Then the protagonist very subtly asks if he passed the tests. Then Zhu tells him not to be in a hurry and gives way to the next test. Getting up, he tells the prota that since they are going to get engaged they should spend the night at home. So the blind girl takes the prota's arm and tells him that she will take him to her room, but Zhu asks them if they are older why they will sleep in separate rooms. Then the blind girl takes the prota with much embarrassment to show him her room, crying, hugging each other. Zhu sees them leaving with a smile on his face drawn, and upon reaching the room, the blind girl gives the prota permission to enter it. The protagonist enters first and notices a very elegant room, and the girl tells the prota to sit on her bed, but with them Zhu also entered. This draws the prota's attention a little, but Zhu tells him that since she is the one assessing she cannot be absent at any time, sitting down and taking off her heels and stockings. However, the blind girl repeats to the protagonist to continue, starting to pull down her skirt. The prota is confused, asks her to stop and asks her why she is doing it, but the girl partially undresses and hides under the sheet. However, with a slap on the mattress and quite embarrassed she tells the prota to lie down next to her. At such a request, the protagonist is surprised, looks at Zhu and hesitantly expresses that he would better sleep on the floor. At such words, Zhu sighs with a smile on his face. However, the girl, who did not dare to look at the prota, turns to see him very tenderly and tells him to lie down next to her soon, because if his mother comes in and sees him sleeping on the floor it could cause a big problem with her. But seeing the girl's insistence, the protagonist looks quite puzzled at Zhu, who smilingly keeps analyzing what the prota will do next. Then the prota agrees and enters the bed with the girl. However, the prota turns his back to the girl, who is embarrassed just by feeling him. So the prota says that now they can sleep. However, something catches his attention when the girl hugs the prota and accepts what the prota proposed to her. With a trembling voice, the prota asks the girl what she is doing, although the girl only hugs him more and does not answer him a word. Then the protagonist noticed that he had his body on top of the girl's hand and carefully allows him to take it off, and dumbfounded he turns to see the girl. Impressed by what has just happened, Zhu looks with an analytical smile at the protagonist. Then he seems to accept what has happened and returns to lie back on the bed, drawing the attention of the girl, who hides under the sheet. And he, although somewhat uncomfortable, proceeds to fall asleep. But at that moment, with much tenderness, calm and embarrassment, she tells the prota that she wants them to be together. This awakens the astonished prota, although he goes back to sleep, but now with much embarrassment. Once the protagonist had closed his eyes, he saw the image of a very beautiful woman, who makes him get up with great fright and exclaiming that he cannot do it. This alerts the girl, and Zhu says nothing beyond looking at him with a smile. The prota, gasping, tries to say something, so the blind girl, worried about him, asks if something happened to him. Then the prota answers her to think about it first, if she really wants to do that with him. Zhu looks at the protagonist and tells him that he can go outside first, but the prota hesitantly tries to say something to Zhu. She stands up and Zhu tells him again, but with the tone of an order, to go outside first and wait, still looking with that coldness. Then the Prota is down in his mind knowing that he messed up everything and wants to know if he can still do something. At that moment the girl's hand touches his, making the Prota reacts and crosses his gaze with the girl's, who does not stop looking at him with a tender face. And without saying a single word, the protagonist gets up from the bed, puts on his slippers and crosses his gaze with Zhu. The Prota tries to express something with his words, although he decides to keep silent and bows to Zhu. The Prota turns around and leaves the room. Meanwhile, Zhu keeps watching with a tender smile, malevolent and cold at the same time as he leaves the room. Then the Prota keeps blaming himself for having spoiled the test and keeps asking himself again and again what he should do and if he will have another chance. And without stopping thinking about how to solve what he messed up, he wonders what he will do if it does not pass, what he will do with his mother's illness. With much sadness he wonders if there will be another way. At that, the door of the room opens and both girls come out. Invaded by silence, both sit in front of the Prota, while the Prota waits anxiously for what Zhu will have to tell him. The Prota swallows dryly and tries to say something, but the same nervousness does not let him say half a word, as he is not even aware of what he has to say, product of the same nervousness. Then Zhu lets out a chuckle and tells the Prota that he has a question that he would like him to give his opinion. The Prota says nothing, just nods his head and beautifully asks the Prota if he understands women. At the question, the Prota is surprised and reacts with confusion, while Zhu envelops him with his gaze, increasing the pressure the Prota felt. The Prota ducks his head and dissenting claims that he is not even able to understand himself. Then Zhu, with his elegant sitting and superior look, congratulates him for being so honest. For there are some people who will reach a point where they will think they know everything, but they are still ignorant, while the Prota just watches in confusion. Then Zhu says that people who are able to know themselves and manage to know others are rare specimens in the world, and conveniently are the people who will manage to reach the top of that industry. At Zhu's explanation, the Prota seems to understand the proof a little. However, he wanted to confirm if he was approved and asks if perhaps he is unsuitable to pass the test. So Zhu tells him that those who with intuition and enthusiasm are able to understand the desires of the opposite sex to his own are undesirable, to which the Prota tries to confirm, but Zhu interrupts him by dissenting with a nod of his head. She then proceeds to tell him that when he was recommended, he was under her discretion to say whether he approves or not, and finishes him off when she confirms that he is not suitable, devastating the Prota's little emotional stability. The Prota was dissatisfied with the answer, and when he tries to ask why, Zhao intuits that she will ask him why he continued with the interview and asks him if that's what he wanted to tell her. The Prota nods, then sensually tells her that it's because her sixth sense as a girl tells her that he has something special that she still can't decipher. That leaves the Prota even more confused. Then Zhao goes on to say that they will move further to see if her feelings are right with what the Prota seems to be hiding, but tells the Prota that unfortunately for him, his character prevents him from tapping into what would make him special, therefore will not let him attain wealth. The Prota, not wanting to hear more, gets up and reverence Zhu again, thanking him for the opportunity, leaving defeated. Zhu stops him and asks him if he doesn't want to listen to what the blind girl wants to tell him. It is in that way that the Prota stops, as if a small hope illuminates his path. The Prota turns to look with much interest, as Zhu comments to him that the blind girl thinks that the Prota's results for a part-time boyfriend prove that he is not qualified, finishing off the last hopes the Prota had. The completely destroyed Prota averts his eyes and asks why she bothered to repeat to him what she had already told him, getting angry that after having given him hopes, she herself trampled on them again, asking what was in it for him. Zhu then goes on to add that the blind girl thinks he has a temperament that can cause women to feel an inevitable attraction and addiction to him, something that calms the Prota and leads him to ask her why she is telling him all that. To which Zhu tells him that he is not qualified, solely by the standards that have been pre-established in the past. Standing up, Zhu advances to the Prota and tells him that women's intuitions are often more accurate than standards. The Prota looks at Zhu in confusion, and Zhu tells him that since they both felt something similar, they will give him only 3 days. To which the Prota hopefully asks what for, and Zhu replies that to leave his affairs arranged and come back for his first job, and then confirm that his intuitions are accurate or not. This leads the Prota to believe that he has been chosen, but Zhu grabs him by the face and tells him that they only intend to use him for their needs. He ends up telling the Prota to work hard so that he gets his first client. Then the Prota wordlessly looks Zhu in the face. Outside the building, the Prota's friend was smoking while waiting for his friend. When the Prota comes out, the Prota's friend senses something from his expression and asks him how he did, but the Prota says nothing and waits in mystery and suspense. And after a few moments, the Prota, shaking his head, confirms to his friend that he did not pass the test. His friend is incredulous at this and, getting upset, starts to curse and ask what they will do now. But the prota tries to tell him that he really had passed, but his blonde friend interrupts him, sighing and hugging the prota. He tells him that it doesn't matter anymore. What matters is to get the money to help his aunt. And in a comical way without being funny, he says that he has the solution to get a job and work hard and then marry a millionaire. And that way she would solve the problem of his aunt's health and change their lives. The blonde goes on to add that he wanted to take advantage of the talent he has for eating, but because God had given him physical attractiveness, he should take advantage of it and use it to his advantage. After calming his narcissism, the blonde guy tells the prota that he will also get him a job so that he can earn a lot of money, telling him that the woman he was following left on a ship in the Pacific. Following this, he puts his hand on his shoulder and tells him not to be ashamed of his situation and that he wants to help him, and to thank fate that they met in college, continuing to tell him that he lets himself be helped by those who value him and are willing to sacrifice for him. Seeing that his friend won't shut up, the prota grabs his friend's cheeks and tells him to shut up and thanks him for what a good friend he has been, but tells him that he will get a second chance, but tells him with a lot of discouragement. His friend is left confused and the prota tells him that he will be able to meet his first client in 3 days. Then his friend reacts in horror and after grabbing the prota's cheeks, asks him what the heck Zhu saw in him to have accepted him. While the prota, confused, hears his friend tell him that Zhu had to have fallen in love as his selection process is one of the most rigorous. And after the prota's friend let go of his cheeks, we are told for the first time the prota's name, which is Zai Zai, and asks him what he will do now. The protagonist, somewhat depressed, does not answer, so his friend tells him that he had been told that it was not good for his image to be seen drinking alcohol. At that, the prota hugs his friend by the neck and invites him to drink. His friend then sighs and full of enthusiasm shouts to go drink. From the top of the building, Zhu with a glass of wine contemplated the views, and without leaving his smile baby his glass. Late at night and at the bar where the prota and his friend arrive, there is a girl singing, and the prota's friend orders 2 Chinese beers while watching the girl singing. Despite being the one who invited, the prota does not leave his depressed face. Then the prota toasts with his friend and drinks the glass of beer in one gulp. Seeing this, his friend couldn't help but feel some concern for his friend and drinks some of his drink and asks the prota what happened to him in the interview with Zhu. But the prota ignores the question and orders another glass of beer. At that, a hand touches the prota's shoulder, and it seems that 2 bulky girls try to seduce the protagonist and his friend to buy them a drink, but the prota with his bad vibes tells them to go away and not to bother him. At such a reaction, his friend looks at him with much shock, as do the 2 girls. The place becomes uncomfortable, and the prota's friend along with the 2 girls look at him with much surprise. Then the prota drinks some of his new glass of beer and reacts to what he just did and apologizes to the girl. Then the girls with a smile act as if nothing had happened, and the girl in red dress tells the protagonist that he must have someone he likes. But as a good sparrowhawk, the prota's friend takes the girl in red dress by the hand and pulls her towards him, telling her to leave that rude guy and enjoy with him. The girl, all taken advantage of, accepts and sits on the legs of the friend of the prota and asks him how much they will drink, if a bottle or a lot. The guy, all a gallant and gross, begins to flatter the girl and tells her to get carried away and drink a lot that he invites. Then the girl put her face close to his friend's face and tells him that he is very nice. Then the guy returns the compliment, telling her that she is also very nice. Then the girl asks him if he knows how to drink and challenges him to see if he can beat her. Then the excited guy sends for 2 more beers, claiming with much enthusiasm that he will drink with that girl until dawn. Then the girl tests him by asking him if he is able to endure so much. Then the blonde guy says with much energy that he can do it because he is a man and that he will not lose against a woman. While they flirt, the prota maintains his doubt if he will be able to raise the money his mother needs for the surgery and continues drinking alone. Then the friend of the girl in the red dress sits to the left of the prota and asks him tenderly if she can buy him a beer. The protagonist thinks it over, but agrees and gives a glass of beer to the girl, who very sweetly and gently thanks him. Late at night, a cab parks in front of a residential complex, where the prota gets out with his depressed face. The prota looks towards his apartment, but decides to take a detour to a swing in the park of his residence. The protagonist sits down without saying a single word, only anguished by the illness his mother is suffering from, for which he can do nothing to help her. At that moment, his phone starts ringing. The prota checks it to see who it was, but as he is in those moments, he doesn't decide to answer the person who called him, putting the phone away again. At that moment, a girl running in pajamas in a hurry appears on the scene looking for something or someone, and in one of those occasions she turns and meets his gaze to the protagonist, who was sitting on a swing. When she reacts and sees him, the girl runs towards him. When he stands in front of her, the protagonist gets up and is astonished to see her in that place. The girl then with much irritation begins to hit on the torso of the prota, scolding him because he did not answer her calls, commenting that she was worried because her friend called her to tell her that he had left hours ago. At this, the prota excuses himself, saying that he was dizzy from drinking so much, and very sadly asks her if they can sit there on the swings. Then the girl asks him if he is okay, and the prota tells her yes, that he wouldn't lie to her, but someone appears which causes the prota to react with astonishment. It seems that the prota got a micro attack in his chest, worrying his friend a bit, who helps him, but scolds him because she had warned him not to drink to excess. And after telling him that this was uncomfortable, she angrily looks away and tells him that he deserves it, because he always does things that make people close to him fear that something will happen to him soon. So she tells him to see it as a punishment. And to complete that, the prota was depressed because he didn't get a permanent job. Now he's depressed because he cheated on the girl, so much so that the guilt eats him up inside, and he questions if he deserves to be with her still. The girl hugs the prota and asks him again if he is well, and also asks him why he doesn't answer. Then the prota again questions himself if he should tell her something. And if he doesn't, he will be able to keep everything a secret. And how could he keep everything like that? Because he thinks that if he tells her, he will lose her. Then the protagonist turns to see his girlfriend and starts to cry. The girl tells him that he is no longer a child to cry out of nowhere. So she takes him by the face and asks him what is wrong. But the prota, affected by remorse of conscience by lying to her, believes that he will lose her. So in the midst of negativism of losing her, he hugs her tightly while crying. Then the protagonist apologizes to his girlfriend for having worried her, to which the girl replies that she is not so easily satisfied, and tells him that if he did something wrong, he should correct it. At that moment, the prota had decided to take his secret to the grave, because he will keep his job until he collects the money to cure his mother. Then his girlfriend pulls away from him and energetically pushes him in the back, telling him that she will fix him something to eat, and the prota apologizes and promises not to drink so much next time. Already in the morning, the protagonist wakes up with a hangover and does not want to get up. Then the door of his room opens and his girlfriend enters with a lot of energy and tells him to wake up quickly because he will be late for work. But the prota pretends to be asleep. That bothers his girlfriend, who opens the curtains or blinds and tells him that she prepared breakfast, and with much joy and tenderness tells him that she has prepared everything he likes. "My friend, I would like to have a partner like that." But the prota turns around and turns his back on her and basically tells her that he has a hangover, that he wants to sleep another while. That was the straw that broke the camel's back to his girlfriend, who, seeing that the prota refused to get up, steps on him, making him wake up, and scolds him for drinking so much, besides threatening him if he didn't get the job. Then the girl gets playful and tells him that if he wants, she will wait to see him change. The prota tells her that they better change together. But the girl gets embarrassed and gives the prota a tremendous shove with her foot, calling him a pervert, and tells him that she will wait for him for breakfast, that if he delays, she will eat everything. The prota smiles, but immediately falls back into his depressed expression because of the work he will have and for lying to his girlfriend. The prota tells that he has been with her since they were in kindergarten and have been together ever since. Even when his father passed away, she was there to encourage him. His mother worked hard to raise him, and since he loves his friend, he was afraid to propose and not give her a proper life. So he has been working on project where he has been working his way up. But when he was going to propose, he was informed that the prota's mother had liver cancer. The prota comes out all messed up from his room, and his girlfriend tells him. So she scolds him and helps him to get ready, telling him that if he keeps on like this, he will be single forever. The prota looks at the girl and hugs her. His friend, surprised and embarrassed, tells him a couple of times to let her go. But the prota keeps on saying in his mind that he doesn't want to lose her or his mother, so he doesn't know what to do. Then the prota tells her to wait for him for a while. The girl doesn't understand what he is meaning by that. Then the prota lets her go and tells her that it's nothing. Go eat, while holding her arms. But the girl looks confused at the prota, so she doesn't give him that much importance. The prota eats breakfast and throws flowers at the milk he is drinking. But the girl tells him that he is lying, as it is a supermarket milk with nothing new. Then the girl comments that he has become good at bringing up conversation, as he used to be an introvert. So the girl proceeds to drink his glass of milk. Then the prota smilingly thanks her for knowing how to cheer him up, but the girl, upset about something, tells him that she doesn't want to talk to him at that moment. So while eating a bagel, she tells the prota to hurry up because he has to go to work, reminding him that if he is late, he will be fined half a day's pay. Then the prota's cell phone rings, so the prota and the girl react. Then the prota's friend tells him that even his mother knows that he is lazy and tells him to hurry up and go to work. Then the prota picks up the phone and looks sadly, replying that he understands that she wants him to leave as soon as possible, asking if he already bored her. He then starts insulting himself by saying that no woman will find someone as pathetic as him attractive. Then the prota's friend knocks on the table and walks over to him. Along with a smile, she tells him that she will take care of him and tells him that she will accept him the moment he proposes. The prota then grabs her nose and reminds her of the criteria her parents set for accepting a son-in-law. But the girl tells him that only applies to those they don't know. But with him it's different. So the prota gives her friend an orange and tells her to eat. He'll go answer the call. So forcefully the girl says she'll eat everything and leave him nothing. Then the prota gets up and goes to the balcony. And from there he sees the girl eating like crazy. When he sees his phone again, he puts back his sad face and prepares to answer his mother's call. At the beginning of the call, the prota speaks very seriously and tells her that she must go into the operating room, that the money was borrowed from her friend at the university. At one point in the conversation, the prota tells her that she must go to work, that if she does not accept the surgery, he will not collect the money for the operation. Then by way of farewell, he tells her that she has to go earn money to pay off her debt. Then his mother yells at him saying that he doesn't earn much and the amount he owes is large, that in those times earning money is very difficult. So she asks him how he plans to pay it back. Faced with his mother's stubbornness and concern, the protagonist tells her not to underestimate him, that he can do it, and tells her that he will go to see her before the operation and asks her not to be having strong emotions so that he can heal properly. Cutting the call, the prota stays contemplating the view from his balcony. Then his friend tells him that if he doesn't come in to eat, she won't leave him anything. The prota calmly turns around, but gets upset when he sees her eating so much and tells her that she is already fat. Then she tells him that it was his fault for having let her wait so long yesterday. So the prota, crying, asks her to at least save him a piece. The protagonist in his company is working in his office quite disturbed when someone tells him that the boss wants to see him. Then the protagonist gets upset and goes to his boss's office. Walking leisurely, he passes by the stall of a female colleague who greets him with much enthusiasm, and the prota looks at her tenderly. Without saying a word, the girl stands up and beckons him towards his lunch, as if wanting to tell him to have lunch together. The prota catches on and signals that it's okay. The manager calls the prota and scolds him by asking him why he hasn't started testing the system he was developing, how he is running the project, and if he still wants his bonus. Then the manager tells him that the project testing is already 3 days behind schedule, then gives him a stern look. At the manager's gaze, the prota looks away and doesn't answer anything. Then the manager tells him that if he cannot lead the project, she will give the position to someone more capable. This worries and frustrates the prota, who hits the manager's desk and angrily tells her that the project is within the process schedule, that all this must be because the other group has been throwing the soap water on them. So the prota tells her that he has been working meticulously on the project, and they are only pressuring him and his team for a system that they have not wanted to implement since they are working to exhaustion on the advances that are necessary. After the prota's complaint, the room is silent, and the manager looks firmly to the prota and says the word customers. And the prota, with much will go, tells him that he already knows that customers are everything, to which his boss scolds him for that bad attitude. So the prota proceeds to recommend him to promote the other party to engineering supervisors soon. After this, the prota goes on to describe his work as leader of a program development team, and the manager in front of him is the founder of the company, beginning to highlight her virtues as a manager and how everyone is aware that she is beautiful and rich. But because of her brusque and firm character, it has been impossible for her to stop being single. After this, the prota meets with his team and notices how 2 of his men are nervous, disturbed, or frightened. And we'll see what happens in the next video. Hit the like button and subscribe if you like it, and if you want the next part, write in the comments the word boyfriend. Thanks for watching.